The Big Ideas Platform is a thought leadership initiative that's been developed by the School of Politics, Policy and Governance, which is an unconventional school that's designed to attract, develop and also produce a new generation of political leaders who will listen and serve the new class of citizens who know their rights. The Big Ideas Platform aims to promote dialogue, collaboration and action to address the present challenges faced by African communities.
Welcome to the Big Ideas Platform podcast. On this episode of the Big Ideas Platform podcast, we speak with Anike Ade Funke Treasure, an ace broadcast journalist, author and social entrepreneur who has used her voice to spark national conversations around gender, equity and youth empowerment. She made history as the first woman to head an all-news radio station under the Radio Nigeria network and later served as Assistant Director of Programs at Radio Nigeria. She's the founder of Sanitary Pad Media Campaign, a project focused on raising awareness about menstrual hygiene and providing sanitary pads to girls. Through her campaign, she has supported over 4,000 schoolgirls across 14 Nigerian states. She holds a master's in journalism and media studies from Rhodes University in South Africa and has received numerous awards for excellence in reporting, including recognition at the CNN MultiChoice Africa Journalism Awards. She's also a certified media trainer, leadership coach, and author of 3 books. Through her initiatives, including the Funke Treasure Table Tennis Championship F3TC and her Media Mentoring Initiative Documentary Fellowship MMIDFS, she continues to empower young girls and inspire future media leaders. Treasure, you've spent years advocating for gender equity and media reform. What inspired your engagement with issues around menstruation and mental health?
Okay, thank you for bringing me here to talk about my favorite subjects, one of my favorite subjects in the world, which is menstrual health. Well, I've been actively into this in the last 5 years, and so I bring experience from the field as an advocate, as a community campaigner, as a media campaigner, and as a scholar. Into this conversation. What inspired me into moving this way is the fact that I realized that the bulk of our lives as women has to do with menstruation, whether for good or for bad. We need menstruation to be reproductive. We need menstruation to be able to bring forth children. Whether you're doing it the natural way or you're using a surrogate or you're using IVF, there's menstruation around everything. So it's very vital. It's at the center of womanhood and motherhood. And I see quite a number of challenges around it. I see a lot of silence around it. I see a lot of misinformation and lack of understanding around it. And I thought, no, I'm going to make a difference here. This is where I want to be. And that's what I've done in the past 5 years. It
is very important to the survival of the species.
Exactly.
Let's call it what it is.
Mankind.
That's it. So why is it important, other than survival of the species, why is it important to talk about menstruation in the context of, for example, national productivity, especially in a society like Nigeria? How does it all tie in?
I like that you use national productivity. The population of Nigeria says we have 50-50 for women and men. At some point, women are a little more than the men. It shows that we're a crucial part of national productivity. And for this population that is vital to national productivity, there is something that is always hampering their productivity that we do not talk about often, that has been shrouded in a lot of silence, and that men have not paid much attention to because they haven't understood what it is all about, again, because of the silence around and about menstruation issues. So if you're talking about productivity, you're talking about half 50% of Nigerian population, whether they're, who are female. And again, you're talking about this female population encompassing the young and the old. So whether it is Minaki, which is the onset of menstruation, the menstruation itself, the years of, reproduction when a woman is fertile, or you're talking even of menopause, which is the end of menstruation and the transition into not menstruating again, there are challenges for women.
That is another important conversation.
It is important because it's all about menstruation. It's pre, during, and afterwards. Yeah. Women deal with challenges that if men understood, they will look at us more empathetically and will put some things in place for us to make the workplace even more enduring, more comfortable for us, and also put policies in place to make the workplace better for us as women.
Now, menstruation is still a hushed topic in many African homes and workplace. So how does this silence impact mental health, particularly for girls and women?
Yes, indeed, you're right. Menstruation is shrouded in a lot of silence, and that silence is deafening. That silence has contributed to a lot of the mental stress that girls and women go through. As I said earlier, menstruation takes a large chunk of women's reproductive health. It also takes a chunk of what a woman has to deal with, or a female has to deal with in a lifetime. In addition to being humans that we all are, we also have to deal with this fundamental nature of women. Once you're female, you have to deal with that as a human. And so it comes with challenges, it comes with social constructions, it comes with myths, it comes with personal makeup of different women. I say this because, and I want to link that to shame. That some women see, and some girls see this menstruation as a curse, as a burden. I mean, why do I have to deal with it for the rest of my life, for a large chunk of my life? Because there are what we call menstrual disorders. So some people are not only being shamed that they're getting stained because they do not have access to period products. That is when we talk about period poverty. The shame that arises from not having the wherewithal to purchase the necessary items to manage your menstruation. That is where period poverty comes from. And from that alone, girls deal with absenteeism from school. Because at that time of the month, they do not have anything to manage. So they would rather stay at home. In terms of anything, I'm talking about menstrual pads, I'm talking about soap, I'm talking about water. If you don't have the pads, then you become that girl in school who's perpetually getting stained. That's some stigma there, that's some shaming there. If you have to deal with menstrual disorder, for instance, pain, you become that one that is always crying in class, that is always having to deal with maybe heavy bleeding, so that shame is there. For women, we've since found out that in the course of my advocacy, I found out that the menstrual disorders include fibroids, endometriosis, dysmenorrhea, which is painful bleeding, painful menstruation. There's polycystic ovarian syndrome. There are all kinds of menstrual disorders that women deal with silently. Back to that silently, that they can't amplify because people don't understand. If you're a woman and you just menstruate 3 days, 5 days, it's just bliss. You just do what you have to do and you go on with your life. You do not understand why someone is writhing in pain.
Okay, can you talk us through some examples where perhaps menstrual stigma directly affected, again, certain brilliant people on their academic journey?
There are plenty examples. There are very many of them. in schools for, when I started my advocacy, what I did was to collate the stories of women in the media and allied media services. I wanted them to be part of the campaign to make sanitary pads available in schools. So I got them telling their stories against against the norm. So we were about 100 women who told the story of our challenges with menstruation, and some of them will blow your mind. First, some people didn't even know how to use the menstrual pads, the disposable ones. So they turned the upside down, and then there were stories of it, gumming to them. There were people who talked about them not having money, having to cut wrappers and using those as their menstrual pads. There were those who, and then because it's not the proper thing to use, they get stained, more frequently. There are those of girls who wouldn't be able to stand up in class because they're stained, and they wouldn't know how to stand up without people getting to know that something has happened to you. There are those who boys in class got to know that, oh, she's stained. Why is she stained? And then girls stood up in class to explain to the boys in class what it meant to menstruate, and why sometimes it's out of your control when you get stained. There are people I've spoken to who've had to remove their wombs because the fibroids have become so recurrent that they needed to remove the womb so that it just deals with it permanently. There are those who've done multiple fibroid surgeries, because they're continually having heavy bleeding, they're continually getting stained at work. There are those who use their food money, that's what the girls call it, their food money in school, to buy sanitary pads. There are those who can't fly, who travel long distance, and they stain the commercial buses, and then they can't stand up, because everybody then knows that this is happening to you. There are those who are menopausal, because sometimes menopause is not necessarily does not necessarily present in your 50s for some women. Some people are get into early menopause at 30, late 30s, they're already menopausal. So for such people, and sometimes it presents in the sense that you start spotting. Spotting means that you can't even control the bleeding. It's come, but it's still going to come when you least expect it. So then you get stained. I'm sitting here now. Look at this chair. And then you get stained. How do you even, I'm talking to you and suddenly I can feel it in my system that this thing is coming, and I am not prepared for it because it's not supposed to come. Then I stain this. Imagine the mental stress of, oh my God, the rest of them here are men. Oh, wow, somebody's office. Then you're trying to find a way, how do I get out of this? So sometimes you can't control menstruation. It's not like a tap that you switch on and you switch off. It comes when it wants to come, and you better be prepared.
So we'll go on a quick break now, and when we return, Treasure will talk to us about some of the challenges, and there's a call to action as well. We would like to challenge some of the listeners of this podcast and hopefully get these conversations amplified, and let's see something done about it. More of this when we come back.
The Big Ideas platform is a thought leadership initiative that's been developed by the School of Politics, Policy and Governance, which is an unconventional school that's designed to attract, develop and also produce a new generation of political leaders who will listen and serve the new class of citizens who know their rights. The Big Ideas platform aims to promote dialogue, collaboration and action to address the present challenges faced by African communities.
So welcome back to the Big Ideas Platform podcast. My name is Camry Apollo. I'm sitting here in conversation with Anike Ade Funke Treasure, and we're talking about menstruation and its connection to mental health and productivity. I don't know about you, but I've learned quite a lot, and there's still more to learn. So let's get back into it. Are enough media keying into this? because you're one person doing all you can in this regard. What about media as an industry, as a sector, and not just in Nigeria, perhaps maybe even continental? Are enough of us aware of this or keying into this so that we can give it the voice it deserves? And what can we do to move it along?
Yes. There is traction in the media. In fact, I think year 2015 was declared the year of the period, because somewhere abroad, I'm not sure now if it is New York Times, one of those global newspapers declared that. And that traction's been sustained in different parts of the world. People are speaking to the different aspects, like I just shared with you, the different strands of discourses in menstrual studies. People are amplifying. We can do better. I look forward to when we do not just talk about periods in the traditional media only on commemorative days like the World Menstrual Hygiene Day. Then everybody is looking for menstrual health experts to talk with, but that we give it the natural, normal treatment that we should, because it's something we deal with every day. Billions of women across the world are menstruating daily. So it's a daily occurrence. I'm looking forward to where radio stations and TV stations will have programs intentionally to address some of these challenges and these areas of health, this menstrual health, as much as we should. Okay, then you're looking at menstruation in prisons, the prison system, carceral institutions, how menstruation is a form of control and exclusion in that place. If you withhold menstrual products or menstrual pads from the women in prison, they're literally under your control. You can control them. How people bleed with indignity in prisons. That's another aspect that we're not looking at. You look at people with disabilities. How do they even menstruate? The more I talk about, you see it expanding. You see what you haven't seen, you haven't thought about before.
Absolutely.
So this is why we're saying to policymakers, it's a comprehensive package. We're asking, create pad banks in schools, so we can fall back on the one school. And I like what Bauchi State government has done, because now the bill has gone to the governor for pad banks to be in schools. They're even considering the women in prisons, a comprehensive bill that they put in place. And I'm just waiting to hear the good news that the governor has given his assent to that bill and it's become an act in Bauchi State. Our pad scholarship is in 14 states of Nigeria. We're in Plateau, we're in Benue, we're in Delta, that we've reached out to people that we've given pad scholarships to. We're in Nasarawa, Bauchi, Kano, Ogun, Lagos, Oyo. In Oyo State specifically, where we're giving to the people living with disability. We're in 13 states, 14 now. So you see, we're not joking here. This is what I've devoted my life to in the last 15 years. And the more we do it, the more we realize. In fact, from the field, we realize that, look, we have to pivot to storytelling. In Zambia, there is menstrual leave. On the audio podcast, I spoke with the head of the Zambian Institute of Human Resources or Human Relations. He's left that position, but I spoke with them. How have you people been able to do this in Zambia? You have menstrual leave in your labor policy, in your labor law. How? In what people regard as conservative African nation, because we're patriarchal, we're conservative in almost all of Africa. So how have you been able to do it? Are people not abusing it and all of that? And he said, no, it's there for you to take advantage of if you have to. But if you don't have to, they don't even bother.
It'll be interesting to see how that has impacted their productivity, since after all, we're talking about the whole chain
in the workplace. I mean, it's something that you also can pick up. I've told you now, Zambia has it. Some Asian countries also have menstrual leave. You see, the problem here in Nigeria is that once we start asking for menstrual leave, and I've been championing that, putting that in all of our podcasts, explaining episodes and explaining why we should have menstrual leave as part of our labor law. It is not to contend with men. It is not out of feminism. But what is feminism anyway? It's asking for rights. This, if you like, this is part of feminism. We are asking for the right to nurture ourselves, to care for ourselves when it becomes really almost impossible to function in the workplace, to be productive. Let me use your word. We're saying that post-COVID workplace has enabled remote work. So we can work from home. So why can we not have menstrual leave? If coming to work will make me a nuisance and a burden, looking for where to sit, looking for where to lie down, looking for where to get water, hot water in the office, bleeding, dashing from the office to the bathroom, we call it toilet in Nigeria, dashing here and there. What productivity do you have anyway? Or if you have to deal with endometriosis, I hear the pain of endometriosis is beyond normal. It is, you can't even begin to imagine. I had someone who's living with endometriosis on one of our podcast episodes, and she said it cost her a relationship. You were looking for stories. Oh, you should watch my Period Stories podcast. It's about stories, because I realized that if we are not telling the stories, people we won't be able to buy empathy from you, to get empathy from people, to say, wait a minute, jokes apart, sentiments apart, our women need this. Because people will say, people have maternity leave, people have annual leave, now you're asking for menstrual leave. Is life only about you? But we're wired differently. We are the ones who menstruate. We are the ones who carry a baby for 9 months on the average. We're the ones who go through childbirth, and then we have to nurture, we have to breastfeed. So we're very different.
Different functions,
we're very
different roles.
Physiologically, we're different. So all we are asking for is to consider these physiological differences and give us the enabling environment to heal from what makes us women, what makes us female. So that one is going through menstrual disorder does not mean that that person will be unproductive. Some of the most brilliant women I know have period disorders. So it doesn't mean that, once we give them menstrual leave, now everybody will now start applying for menstrual leave. No. You have, as an HR officer in your organization, you have the files of everybody. Somebody who doesn't need menstrual leave, you will know. If they're going to the doctor, you don't have to know the nitty-gritty, but you will know. You can speak to their doctor. So there's a way we can manage this. Please, you can do it in your own organization, and your own organization as well at RadioNow. Say, okay, we're going to consider this for the women who work here. You can work remotely if you can't deal with it physically in the office. And if you still can't deal with it remotely, you can take 2 days off. 2 days out of the 5 days. Actually, the first 2 days are the worst for those who have period conditions, because then that's when the pain or the discomfort is intense. So I am sitting here advocating for menstrual leave. I am sitting here advocating for a comprehensive curriculum in our schools, in our secondary schools, that will incorporate water and sanitation facilities for our schools, pad banks for our schools. I'm sitting here advocating that our policymakers begin to look at storytelling in public health communication, particularly in menstrual health. This is the only way that you can appreciate the struggles of many women and girls and be able to fashion out an effective policy that will be all-encompassing. I'm sitting here telling our fathers who are dealing with pad budgets, because there's also the pad budget. You said you're in a family where there are 3 boys and one girl. It's the same in my family, 3 boys, 1 girl. But you see, there are people who are dealing with all girls. There are people who are dealing with 6 girls in their families, and that's a pad budget for you. Even with your food budget, you have to create a pad budget, because all of them are menstruators, including their mother. And that takes a chunk of what you spend as your family budget, because pads are quite expensive now. They're quite expensive. So that is why with the onset of the economic situation of the country post-COVID, you see that some people are falling back to the use of wrappers.
Period poverty.
That's period poverty, which is why we're now saying it was tough for me to pivot from disposables to reusables. That's why we're saying we would rather give you reusables than have you fall back into the use of wrappers, which are not hygienic.
So by way of closing, is it safe to say one of your call to actions, especially towards media, will be a better coordinated strategy to amplify this message?
Yes, indeed. We want this amplified. We want our policymakers to also consider the stories they're watching, they're hearing, and they're reading, and create a comprehensive menstrual health policy for schools, even for the workplace. I want my fellow innovators, my fellow advocates to also, and this is very important, to also include the African perspective into the framing of menstrual issues, in the telling of menstrual stories. We have our own ways of viewing menstruation before pre-colonialism, and we've lost that in the narrative. What we have now is a Western notion of menstruation. I'd want fellow advocates and storytellers to begin to look for the African perspective, the African narrative. For instance, in Ijebu land, once you attain that age, once you see your first menstruation, they kill a fowl for you.
It's celebrated.
Because it's celebrated.
Great.
They see it as the becoming. You've become a woman. It's something to celebrate. It's not something to hide. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's not stigma.
All right. Now, for our people following this podcast, especially young people and change makers, what are two things that they can start doing today to challenge stigma and support menstrual health?
Storytelling. Let us inundate everywhere with the stories around us. Secondly, inclusion. Inclusion of people with disabilities and inclusion of men, inclusion of boys. We should not separate women and girls from boys when we do menstrual health talks in schools. We should bring them together. They need to understand they're going to be husbands tomorrow. They're going to be fathers tomorrow. When women have to go to the hospital because of one menstrual condition or not, is their husbands and their boyfriends who go with them. So the earlier we begin to socialize them into the knowledge, the entire thing they need to understand about menstruation, the better for us. Yeah.
For people wishing to pursue this more, to learn a bit more, how can they get in touch with you?
We have presence on social media. We are, big on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram. We have a website. We're on Twitter. So whichever way you go, just look for Sanitary Pad Media Campaign. You find us there. I'm particularly active on LinkedIn because there are a lot of people doing stuff in their areas of the world, and it's always great to connect with these people.
Treasure, it's been very, very enlightening having this conversation with you, albeit it's quite short. We hope it will continue. As you say, let's amplify the cause. A mentally healthy person is a very productive person, and the menstruation has great bearing on a person's mental health.
That's right.
So we need to pay more attention to this, and let's hope the message is carried far and wide. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me here.
The Big Ideas Platform is a thought leadership initiative that's been developed by the School of Politics, Policy and Governance, which is an unconventional school that's designed to attract, develop and also produce a new generation of political leaders who will listen and serve the new class of citizens who know their rights. The Big Ideas Platform aims to promote dialogue, collaboration and action to to address the present challenges faced by African communities.